Today I'm talking with Wanda Campbell, founder of Cultivara Leadership Development. She's an ICF professional certified executive coach, licensed organizational psychologist, has her PhD in organizational psychology, and her BS in business administration. Wanda, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to tell us your story. I know you're super busy.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to talk with you.
The thing that really resonated with me about you, Wanda, was when we first met, how much you've accomplished. You are super successful, and how much you have overcome. I think anyone dealing with a major challenge, and that's probably all of us at one point or another, would be inspired by your story. That piece, connection and how to influence others, is what many of us lack when we're thinking about grinding it out and trying to be successful.
Okay.
So Wanda, can you tell us how you got to where you are today?
I started far behind any client that I've ever encountered thus far. And I grew up with a very severe speech impediment. And because of the severity of the impediment, folks were unable to understand what I had to say. One of my most vivid memories from childhood is walking around the playground at recess and praying for it to be over so I could go inside. The benefit of the challenge was that because I spent so much time alone, I developed a great love of books and did a lot of reading and learned that I love learning. So that was wonderful. And by age 12, I conquered the speech impediment in time for middle school. So that was good timing. And that was probably the first goal I remember setting for myself. I got that one. Yeah. And so I did well in school, earned a bachelor's in business administration, working my way through college as a waitress. And after a few years of getting some work experience, I decided to apply directly to a PhD program. At one point, one of the faculty members called me aside, and what he said was that the other graduate students didn't want to work with me. And I've got to confess, at the moment, what occurred to me, the thought that occurred to me was, and the problem is, I had the emotional intelligence to keep my mouth shut and listen. So that was a good thing. So that would have been really bad.
Oh no, that must have actually been a really painful moment. But, thankfully you had your ears open.
Yeah, it was a painful moment. And but it was also a very influential moment in my life. Anyway, while that was a very painful moment, I am so glad that it occurred, because had it not occurred, my life would have been far different. And when I went on my internship at Verizon, then Bell Atlantic, I paid attention to leaders and what they did and who was successful and who was less successful. And part of what I realized was that the folks who were most successful tended to have better interpersonal skills.
It says something really special about you, that despite all of your accolades and honors and academic achievement, you're able to hear your professor in that moment, and then later at Verizon observe what was going on and then decide to do something about it. Because today, you're this kind, warm person who has devoted her life to helping others. I remember at one point in my career, someone handed me the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, maybe as a not so subtle hint that I needed to work on my interpersonal skills. And I think it's a best-selling book for a good reason. We all struggle with how to have influence in a positive way. So what was your next step?
From that point forward, I made a study of how to develop improved relationships and how to influence people. In addition to learning what to do, I had to figure out what was natural for me and what I was comfortable doing, and then practice it. And so over time, what was my worst uh, challenge or my greatest weakness was converted into my greatest strength.
So how did you translate this into a coaching career?
Well, I've spent a lot of years working in a corporate environment, and I really hate it when I see very bright, talented people sidelined in their careers. And that is what would have happened to me. It occurred to me that I might be in a unique position to help some of these folks make the kind of transition I did. It's just sort of a view of justice from my side.
And today, you connect so well with these high achievers, the super smart, the quantitative analytical types who are today's up and coming leaders. How did you get so good at this?
Well, I got so good at it because I'm one of them. The more difficult the problem, the greater the elation when you solve it. So I'm like these people. Like them, I have worked very hard over the years to achieve goals, and I've been frustrated at times. And so I understand where they're coming from. I am one of them.
Today, you are the successful founder of Cultivara Leadership Development Coaching. What areas does your firm specialize in for these types of people?
What I specialize in is relationships, business relationships, and also influence, because those are the two things that you need to make a difference. So I guess if I wanted to say it succinctly, I help people, or I help my clients with the people aspects of their job.
So you've gotten to the point where these big organizations are lining up to pay you for your services. What tools, resources, or processes do you use to help your clients?
Because I am a licensed psychologist as well as an executive coach, I've got a number of resources available to me that are not commonly available, beginning with the fact that I've got a PhD in how to make organizations effective. So that comes in handy sometimes. I've also figured out what didn't work out of that. So I can share those experiences. But what I do is I work one-on-one with a client to find out what his or her unique needs are, what is acceptable to them, what they want to do, how we can best get there. And we do this jointly. I do what is called a narrative 360. So instead of having folks, your manager, your peers, your direct reports, answer a paper or an electronic survey, I actually interview them. And the client and I work out what the questions will be. And what that does is that enables me to dig very deeply into specifically what are the challenges. The typical client hires me because he or she has goals that they want to achieve, and they're not making the progress that they want to achieve them. And so my job is to identify what may be standing in the way, and then we work together to find out how to get around that. And oftentimes we're having to change not only behavior, but also mindsets and beliefs.
It sounds like complex problems, but it sounds like you have also great solutions. And it also sounds like you work really hard and you make sure they get results, which is what anybody wants in a coach. What other things, though, have your clients tried that don't get them where they want to be? And why, in your opinion, don't these other methods work?
Okay. Well, I think that the other methods work to some extent. And two that come to mind immediately are training and books. Knowing what to do and doing it are two different things. And both the books and the training suffer from that. And that's why it's so critical in the coaching that people try things and get feedback from me, from other folks, and they get real-time feedback about what's working and what's not. And then they can go back to the books and pick up some other stuff that they've forgotten. But you've got to have that foundation for the rest of the things to work.
That's great. So sort of a baseline, some feedback, and some accountability is what coaching can provide that the other methods just cannot.
Right.
It certainly sounds like an effective solution for people, but of course there are other coaches out there too. What
Sure.
do you offer your clients that no one else can?
If you can identify with your client, there's no judgment on my part. I was there. I continue to work at this. And so I get it. So that's a huge part. A second part is, unlike many coaches, I have been in a leadership position. I ran a nationwide employment testing program for the electric utility. I had profit and loss responsibility, beginning with doing a business turnaround as soon as I stepped into the job. Even the business turnaround required relationships, because I had to leverage my relationships with the clients to get the money I needed to pull us out of that space. I have had to do hard things like terminate people. I also got to do really fun things like develop people, develop my successor, give really nice bonuses. So I know firsthand what you're going through in these jobs. I like these people. I like being around these people. And that's kind of hard to replicate.
That sure is. And it sounds like you just absolutely love what you do. And that's another way you're head and shoulders above the rest. And that's got to be such a boon to your clients that they can tap into all of those areas of expertise in one person. Well, you're sure laser focused on what you do for them, but what would you refer people elsewhere for, Wanda?
Okay. First off, I am not a career coach. I am not a life coach, although my clients tell me that their personal relationships have improved along with their business relationships. Even though I'm a licensed psychologist, I'm not a clinical psychologist. So when folks are having challenges that are out of my area of expertise, then I refer them to other people who are better trained and better equipped to help them with those challenges.
So it sounds like leadership development coaching is really where it's at for you, Wanda.
Yeah, it is. I love it. I have never been this happy in my life. I'm working with wonderful people. They're highly motivated. They're bright. And I just love watching them progress and see their successes. It doesn't get any better than this.
So great. I am personally convinced that you are the solution to help companies encourage their up and coming technical and analytical leaders to really blossom into their full potential. If someone is interested in getting in touch or working with you, where would you direct them?
The easiest way to learn a little bit more about me, to see if I, in fact, am a good fit for them, would be to go to my website, which is Cultivare, spelled Cultivare, cultivate with an R instead of the second T, -leadership.com. Or shoot me an email at Wanda at cultivar-leadership.com. I would love to hear from folks. And if I can't help you, I'll be honest with you about that. And we'll get you in touch with someone who can.
Wanda, thank you so much. I have learned so much from this conversation, and it's been my pleasure to have this chat with you today.
Well, it's been my pleasure talking with you, Amanda. I always enjoy talking with you.